Control doesn't give you peace. It gives you a promise. If I lock down one more thing, then I'll finally be able to breathe. Picture this. Sunday night. The house is quiet, but your head isn't. You've got an important meeting tomorrow. You open the presentation one more time. Not because it's bad, it's solid. You're reviewing it because your body won't accept solid. Your body wants something else. Certainty. You move a comma, change a color, reread a sentence you've already reread. And when you finally close the file, a thought shows up that sounds reasonable, almost responsible, just in case. And here's the psychological twist. You're not trying to make it perfect. You're trying not to feel vulnerable. You're trying to buy calm with control. If this hits home, it's not because you're uptight. It's not because you're obsessive, and definitely not because you're cold or difficult. It's because there's an internal logic that pushed you into functioning this way. And that logic is usually so old, you don't even argue with it anymore. You obey it. What changes you isn't someone telling you, relax. That doesn't work. What changes you is understanding what's holding up the urge to control, what fear is underneath, what part of you gets activated, what price your body is paying, and what your relationships are paying. If you stay, you'll be able to look at yourself with a kind of clarity that doesn't shame you. Clarity that holds you accountable, yes, but also treats you fairly. Because control doesn't come out of nowhere. It shows up when a part of you decided, if I don't handle it, something breaks. Let's go in slowly. Think about a normal situation. Someone says, I've got it. Your partner, a coworker, a friend. I'll send the email. I'll book it. I'll organize it. And you smile and say, perfect. But inside, your brain doesn't hear perfect. It hears risk. And the quiet math starts. Will they do it on time? Will they do it right? Will they remember the important part? What if they mess it up? What if we look bad? Your mind seems trained to hunt for the weak point in any plan, not out of malice, out of prevention, out of emotional survival. Here's what almost nobody notices. The need for control isn't a love of being in charge. It's a way of regulating anxiety. It's your nervous system trying to avoid a feeling you can't stand. Uncertainty. Uncertainty doesn't mean something bad will happen. It means you don't know what will happen. And for some people, that I don't know isn't neutral. It feels like a threat. So you do what works fast. You control. You anticipate. You lock things down. You supervise. And yes, you get relief, briefly. But then something else shows up, because control doesn't kill fear. It just postpones it. You tell yourself, once this is done, I'll relax. You finish. And your mind finds another variable, another detail, another possible mistake, an unanswered message, an ambiguous silence, and you're right back to, just in case. Now here's a common confusion. There's healthy control, the kind that organizes, plans, protects what matters. That kind helps you. The problem starts when control stops being a tool and becomes an identity. When you're not controlling things anymore, you're controlling yourself, the environment, your image, the outcome, even the possibility of being wrong. At that point, control isn't efficiency, it's armor, and armor is heavy, even when it protects you. To really understand it, we have to look at control from the inside, like watching a scene in slow motion. You're at work. You're assigned a project with someone else. They say, don't worry, I'll handle this part. Out loud you say, awesome. Inside, a whole different movie. plays, the email they won't send, the mistake nobody will notice until the last minute, the tiny detail that blows everything up. You don't imagine this because you enjoy suffering. You imagine it because you want to be ready, because feeling unprepared scares you to your core. So you do something. You send a message to align, then another to confirm. You ask for progress just so you can help. And when they send it, you inspect it. You correct. You tweak. You rewrite. In the end, your coworker feels two things. You don't trust them, and no matter what they do, you'll check it anyway. And you feel something else. Relief. Good thing I looked, and that's the loop that repeats in your life. You control to feel safe to the other person. Experiences pressure or distrust till they pull back or become passive to you. Prove your belief that, if I don't do it, it won't get done. You control even more. It's not a moral flaw. It's a system. And systems don't change through willpower. They change when you understand the job they're doing. Here's the uncomfortable nuance. A lot of what makes you controlling isn't that you're demanding of the world. It's that you're demanding of yourself. The real pressure isn't out there. It's in your relationship with mistakes. Some people mess up and think, ugh, that's annoying. Other people mess up and feel, this means something about me. Like failure is evidence of a bigger truth. I'm not enough. I'm not reliable. If I'm not perfect, I'll be rejected. When mistakes become identity, control becomes necessity. Do you wake up already running inside? A mental list that won't shut up. A constant sense of debt, I have to, even when nobody asked you to. And here's something that can sting to admit. You might have a quiet relationship with guilt. Not because you do bad things, because your mind uses guilt as fuel. If you feel guilty, you move. If you move, you feel like you're preventing problems. If you prevent problems, you feel valuable. Guilt as gasoline. It works until it burns you out. Now a different scene. Your relationship, weekend, a simple plan. And still, you organize it like an operation. Exact time, route, reservations, backup options if it rains. And the other person starts feeling like even rest has rules. Your partner says, loving but tired. We can just wing it a little. And that phrase, which would feel like freedom to someone else, activates you. Because wing it in your system means we're exposed. Exposed to wasting time, making mistakes, arguing, having the day go bad. So you push back. Not with yelling, with logic. With that airtight reasoning that sounds like care. It's better if we have it set. And sure, sometimes it is better if your main goal is reducing uncertainty. But if the goal is connection, breathing, enjoying yourself, maybe not. Here's what people get wrong from the outside. They look at you and think you're arrogant, distrustful, intense. But inside, you don't feel superior. You feel responsible, on guard, and often alone. Because carrying control also means carrying the weight of nothing can go wrong. That isn't arrogance. It's hyper-responsibility. The feeling that it's your job to prevent problems that don't even exist yet. Psychology calls something close to this intolerance of uncertainty. Difficulty holding "I don't know" without doing something to close it. And your mind is creative at closing it. Planning, checking, anticipating, rehearsing conversations, building scenarios. Yes, it makes you competent, but it also makes you rigid. And rigidity has a cost. It steals play, rest, surprise. Because surprise for you isn't always joy. Sometimes it's threat. Let's go deeper, because nobody sustains a pattern this expensive unless it's giving them something. The real question is, what does control give you? It gives you predictability, order, a clear role, the one who holds it together. It gives you identity. And most of all, it gives you a very specific illusion that you can avoid certain emotions. Because there's another layer. Control doesn't just organize, control also numbs. When you're busy controlling, you don't feel as much. You're in do mode, fix mode, prevent mode. And in that mode, certain emotions get pushed under the surface. Fear, sadness, not enoughness, even anger. They don't disappear. They wait. That's why rest can feel weird. Not because you don't want to rest, but because when you stop, what control was covering up starts coming up. Do you ever finally get free time and your body doesn't know what to do? You're on the couch, but your mind is scanning. Messages, loose ends, scenarios, conversations. Not because you're addicted to productivity, because inner silence scares you. In silence, the habito question you avoid shows up. What if I can't? Or, what if I'm not as strong as I look? Another scene. Family. They ask for help organizing something. You say yes because you want to help. You start coordinating, and then you realize you're carrying almost everything. Because if you let go, they'll do it wrong, late, or differently. And different in your system feels dangerous. So you become the operations center. Everyone checks with you. Everyone depends on you. And you complain internally. Why doesn't anyone take initiative? But when someone does take initiative and doesn't do it your way, you tense up. You correct. You redirect. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes you train people to depend on you. Not because you want to, because your anxiety can't tolerate the messy, imperfect process of other people learning. They weren't born knowing your standards. You built those standards to survive, to stand out, to not fail. But when you impose them on everyone around you without meaning to, you take the air out of the room. Then you end up with two problems. The world won't behave how you need it to, and you're exhausted. Here's another hidden layer. Control isn't only fear of things going wrong. It's fear of losing something. Losing respect. Losing stability. Losing love. Losing your place. For many people, control is connected to attachment, how you learn to bond. If your history had emotional unpredictability, conditional affection, sudden criticism, mood swings, punishing silence, your system learned to scan the room, read signals, predict, adapt. When you learn the environment can shift fast, you become an expert at anticipating. Not because you're paranoid, because it used to be useful. Maybe as a kid you learned early, if I do everything right, I won't be a burden. Or, if I'm the responsible one, I won't be left. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes, it's subtle. But your body logged it. And what the body learns, the body repeats. So now, even in a relatively safe environment, your system reacts like it isn't safe. Because control doesn't respond to the present. It responds to emotional memory. Here's the idea that organizes everything. You don't control because you don't trust other people. You control because you don't trust what happens inside you when things get messy. You don't trust your ability to tolerate discomfort. You don't trust your ability to hold shame if something goes wrong. You don't trust your ability to repair a mistake without collapsing internally. So you'd rather prevent. And yes, prevention is smart. But when prevention becomes automatic, you're not living. You're managing risk. Quick friendship micro-story. A friend takes a while to respond to your text. They could just be busy, but your mind fills the gap. And the gap is the enemy of control. So you reach for certainty. You reread your message. Wonder if it sounded weird. Replay a sentence that could have been misunderstood. Then the urgency hits. Send something else to clarify. Or text, "Everything okay?" Not out of care, out of anxiety. If they reply dry, it stings. If they reply late, it hurts. If they reply normally, you feel relief. Relief that lasts until the next silence. The loop usually goes like this. Uncertainty to your mind reads it as threat to you, try to close the gap with control to the relationship. Gets tense to you confirm something can always happen, to you control again. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. But it can trap you in a specific kind of prison, where the guard is your need for certainty. Important rehook. If you take one idea from this video, let it be this. You don't control because you want to dominate. You control because you're trying not to feel one specific emotion. Helplessness. Helplessness is that feeling of, I can't do anything. In some life stories, that feeling was unbearable. Maybe because when you were small, I can't meant being at someone else's mercy, depending on someone unstable, having no voice, not being able to protect yourself. So control today is your way of saying, I can, even if it's in small details. On one hand, that gives you agency. On the other, it makes you a prisoner. Because if everything depends on you, you never rest. If everything depends on you, you never trust. You're always standing. Look at your body. The need for control rarely stays in the mind. It moves into the body. Clenched jaw, shallow breathing, raised shoulders, light sleep. Like some part of you is still on watch. Control is vigilance, and living in vigilance changes you. More irritable, less patient, less available. Not because you're bad, because you're overloaded. Now, a respectful, uncomfortable truth. Sometimes control blocks real intimacy. Real intimacy isn't just being with someone. It's letting someone see you when you're not polished, when you don't have the answer, when you don't know. If you built your value on, I've got it, asking for help can feel humiliating. Not because it is, but because it connects to a history where needing was unsafe or shameful. So your mind makes a deal. I don't need anyone. It protects you, but it also isolates you, because we all need something. And when you refuse to need, you don't become stronger, you become unreachable. To yourself and to others. People can love you and still not know how to get close, because every time they try to help, you correct. Every time they try to lean in, you manage. Every time they try to improvise, you adjust. It's not that you don't want love. You want love without risk. Love that doesn't expose you. And that's the problem. Love exposes. Trust exposes. Life exposes. At this point, you hear labels: intense, the rigid, controlling. And inside, you defend yourself. I just want it to go well. And that's true. But go well can hide two needs. A healthy one, care. An anxious one, avoiding shame. Shame is the emotion that whispers, if I fail, it's not that I made a mistake. I am the mistake. When that's the fear, control becomes fierce. Not toward others, but toward you. You talk to yourself harshly. You demand readiness. You demand you never bother anyone. You demand that you foresee everything. You even demand that you manage the emotional vibe of the whole group like it's your job. The more you demand of yourself, the more you control. The more you control, the more you believe that if you let go, you'll fall apart. Here's something that surprises people. A part of you thinks control is love, like controlling is caring. like controlling is protecting. And sometimes, in small doses, it is. But when it's constant, the other person doesn't feel cared for. They feel evaluated. They feel like your calm depends on their performance. A concrete scene. Your partner says, "I'll cook tonight." You try to relax, but you hear the kitchen. You get up just to see if they need anything. You suggest, you correct. Better like this. That doesn't go there. Careful. Not out of cruelty, out of urgency. Your partner gets sharper. "Let me do it." And you feel offended because you're not criticizing, you're helping. But they don't receive help. They receive control. And here's what hurts. You become the problem you were trying to prevent. You wanted harmony and you create tension. You wanted closeness and you create distance. Then, to avoid feeling that distance, you control more. Necessary nuance. Not all control is harmful. In some contexts, planning is a strength. What we're talking about is when control becomes automatic, unchosen. When it's more an anxiety reflex than a strategic decision. You can feel the difference. Chosen control stabilizes you. Automatic control tightens you. You feel it in your breath, your mood, your ability to enjoy, in how you react to tiny changes. If a small change throws you into internal chaos like it's a disaster, it's not the change, it's the rigidity. Uncomfortable truth, said gently. Feeling anxious doesn't give you the right to control other people. Your anxiety is real. It has a history. It deserves compassion. But when your anxiety becomes everyone else's rulebook, other people lose space. They lose spontaneity, autonomy, the right to make mistakes. They lose the feeling that they can be themselves without triggering your tension. And when that happens, relationships stop being relationships. They become management systems. You manage, others adapt. And what disappears is emotional freedom. If you recognize yourself here, this isn't to punish you. It's to show you the exact point where the pattern stops protecting you and starts hurting you. Here's what people confuse. They confuse control with strength. They see you fixing things and assume you're strong. But often, control is where you're most fragile. Because your peace depends on external variables. That someone delivers, the plan works, the world cooperates. That's not strength. That's dependency in disguise. Real strength is tolerating a little disorder without collapsing. It's making a mistake without turning it into a verdict. It's letting someone do it their way and staying with the discomfort that creates. And yes, that can be trained. Here's a distinction that will organize your brain. Control is not the same as a boundary. A healthy boundary is, this is what I need to be okay. Control is, this is what you need to do so I can be okay. Boundary. If we're late, I get anxious. I'd rather leave early. Control. You have to leave right now or you're ruining my day. A boundary talks about you. Control takes over the other person. Most controlling people don't want to take over anyone. They just want the anxiety to stop. But without realizing it, they export their anxiety and force other people to live inside their system. If this kind of breakdown is helping you understand yourself with more precision, subscribe to Mental Profile. Now let's get practical. Not ideal. Realistic. You're not going to stop controlling. You're going to learn to choose. You're going to train tolerance for uncertainty like a muscle. Small weight, repeated reps. First, delay the urgency. When you feel the need to check or intervene, don't force yourself not to. Just say, in 5 minutes. 5 minutes teaches your brain the urge rises and falls without you obeying it. Second, set a good enough standard. Good enough is hard when your world is excellent or danger, but it exists. Before you send an email, I'll read it twice and send it. Twice, not 5 times. Third, delegate one small task and don't review it. Small, manageable. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is building tolerance for different. Fourth, practice. Different doesn't mean worse. When someone does it their way, instead of correcting, ask, what was your logic? It moves you out of judgment. Fifth, name what you're feeling. A simple internal line. This is anxiety. This is fear. This is shame. Naming lowers intensity. Sixth, reduce control where there's no real impact. Ask, does this change something real, or does it just calm me? Seventh, schedule your worry. Pick 10 minutes a day for that topic. If it pops up outside that window, tell yourself, I'll think about this at 7. It's not denial, it's direction. Eighth, ask directly, without control disguised as help. 3 lines you can literally use. It really helps me if you confirm when it's done, so I can relax. I'd rather do this step by step. I need a simple plan, not a perfect one. This makes me anxious and I can handle it. But I'm asking for a little patience. Ninth, let a small consequence happen. If someone makes a minor mistake, the world doesn't end. It gets repaired. Your system needs that evidence. 10th, regulate your body, slower breathing, drop your shoulders, walk for 2 minutes. You're telling your body, this isn't an emergency. And one last one, because it changes everything. Drop the indispensable role once a week. One day where you're not the engine. At first it feels like guilt, then rest, then life. One important thing, you won't loosen control and instantly feel great. More likely you'll loosen a little and feel anxious. That doesn't mean you're getting worse. It means you're stopping the numbness. Your mind will negotiate. See? We can't. But if you keep the small practice, your system learns. You can tolerate uncertainty. You can improvise without breaking. You can fail without losing your worth. And here's the channel's signature idea. Keep this. It's not a moral defect. It's a strategy you learned. A brilliant strategy for a chapter of your life. It's just that now, it might need an update. Because there's a point where control stops being protection and becomes a prison. Not because you control a lot, but because you control from fear, not from choice. And the way out isn't becoming chaotic. The way out is becoming flexible. Flexibility isn't disorder. It's adaptability. It's being able to say, this went differently, and I can handle it. It's letting someone do it their way without reading it as danger. It's resting without feeling like you're in debt. It's making mistakes without humiliating yourself. Let's close with something I want you to hear without drama. You're not broken. You're functioning. You're functioning with an internal logic that once gave you safety, belonging, value, predictability. Your mind isn't attacking you. It's protecting you. The problem is it protects you like you still live in a world that no longer exists. Like every mistake is danger. Like every improvisation is a threat. Like rest is irresponsible. You don't need to destroy that part of you. You need to put it in its place. Let it stay with you, but not on top. Let it warn you, but not run you. Because the peace you're chasing doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from trusting something deeper. Your ability to respond even when you didn't anticipate. Your ability to repair. Your ability to hold uncomfortable emotions without turning them into automatic actions. That's emotional maturity, and it can be learned. If you want to keep exploring these patterns calmly and deeply, subscribe to Mental Profile. And sit with this question, no rush. What's the thing you would let go of if you trusted you could handle whatever comes, even without having everything under control?